Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. On today's Explain episode, we're talking all about cutting boards. Starting from the basic of how to safely use cutting board at home, the pros and cons of each material such as wood, bamboo, plastic, glass, and marble cutting board, to how to clean, store, disinfect, and how to extend the life of your cutting board. And at the end of the video, I'm also going to show you how to choose the cutting board for your specific needs. Check it out. Hi dear friends, this is Erica right here. I'm a Taiwanese citizen, currently living in America. Cooking and traveling are my passion, so I'm here to share with you my favorite Asian recipes. I make kitchen trivia, short, and Asian home cooking recipe on this channel, so if that interests you, please subscribe and keep watching. If you just got into cooking recently, what are the essentials that you need for your kitchen? I'll say you need a pan, a spatula for sure, and besides that, you kind of just need a cutting board and a knife to start. Most people only think about investing money into a nice chef knife, but you probably didn't know that if you bought the wrong cutting board, the cutting board might be damaging your knife every single day. Also, have you thought about what is the best material cutting board? Which one is the safest to use? Also, how do I know if there's bacteria on my board that I should throw it away, or should I disinfect it, reuse it, not worry about it? And why does my cutting board stink sometimes? Today, I'm gonna answer all of your questions about cutting board, and if you're planning on buying a cutting board in the near future, make sure you stick to the end of the video where I'll teach you how to choose a cutting board for your specific needs. But first, let's talk basics. When it comes to cutting boards, people are always wondering if a natural material such as wood and bamboo is a better choice, or are the poreless materials such as marble, glass, and plastics are better. There's a lot of debate online trying to get your eyeballs by telling you which one is better, but the fact is, according to FDA, all these materials are very safe to use at home. And when it comes to food safety, what really matters is how you're using your cutting board and how you clean it instead of what material you use. The best cutting board can get you sick if you don't clean it properly, and if you maintain your board well, say by washing it right after usage and keep it dry always, a $20 board is just as safe as a $300 ones. So here are 3 basic rules that you need to follow when it comes to using a cutting board, no matter the materials. Number 1, use a different board for your raw and cooked ingredients. And if you can, separate the different protein, seafood, and vegetable in different boards just so they have no chance at all to cross-contaminate. Although if you only own one board and you're on a budget, there's also a way around it by disinfecting the board between usage, especially between the food that you're gonna cook after and the food that you're gonna put it right into your mouth. And about how to disinfect your board, we'll talk about that in the next chapter. Number 2, always dry up your cutting board thoroughly after washing and before storing them away, because bacteria thrive in wet environments. And in a dry environment, it is harder for the bacteria to survive, not to mention multiply. But there's another reason why people care about drying on their wooden board a little bit more, because wood board can get moldy. But you don't need me to tell you that's just visibly gross. Number 3, maintain or replace your cutting board once you feel the surface is getting too rough. If you own a wooden board, sanding and oiling it occasionally can not only make them last longer, but also prevent it from staining, warping, or cracking. Resurfacing your cutting board can smooth out the gouges and prevent moisture and bacteria from trapping inside. Also, keep your board looking new and fresh. Now, let's suppose you own a plastic board that is not sandable, that is like super thin. You'll have no choice but to replace it after a while. Or if you really don't have money, you can also choose to disinfect it more often. This will last you for a little bit longer, but if one day that you realize that your knife is starting to catch on these gouges, it is time to replace it. There's no way around it by then. Now, if you follow all these simple rules, no matter what material you choose to use will be perfectly safe for you at home. Now, let's put the food safety aside for a moment. What are some of the criteria for a good cutting board? Well, one of the most important things about a cutting board is that it can't be too hard. Because we mentioned a little bit earlier, a hard cutting board will damage your knife every time you use it. So if you put all your money into investing a good chef knife and you got like a really bad board, you're basically damaging your investment. And that's also a reason why the plastic and wood board are more likely to be seen in a commercial kitchen. So I like to see cutting board and knife as a pair instead of one or the other. Another crucial thing about cutting board is stabilization. A good cutting board should not move even a little bit while you're using it, either with its natural weight or the non-slip rubber bottoms. And if the surface of the board is slippery as well, let's say glass, your food might just slip away while you're chopping, which higher your chances of chopping your own fingers. Now we know the basic rule of choosing cutting board. Today I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of 5 different material cutting boards so you can have a better idea of what are you looking for. First, let's talk wood cutting boards. Wood is one of the most popular home kitchen cutting board material. They are beautiful looking, durable, and pretty heavy. Heaviness might seem like a con for many people, but as we mentioned earlier, the weight of the board will stabilize the board while you're chopping, and you're less likely to cut your hands. Also, the more heavy the wood, that means the thicker it is. It also gives you a lot of room to sand it down over time, so it will last longer. Wooden cutting board also has physical property that makes them resistant to bacterial life and their ability to multiply. These natural material board dries really fast, which can take away the moisture of the bacteria and kill them slowly. But the downside of it is that if you live in a very humid climate, these boards might get moldy quickly. Also, any wood material should never get into the dishwasher, including your wooden cutting boards, because the prolonged exposure to heat and water will not only warp your cutting board, but might also crack it over time. And last but not least, wooden cutting board does take a lot of effort and time to maintain, but the reason is because it is maintainable, so you don't need to throw it away. Marble, walnut, and cherry wood are all softer wood, and bamboo boards on the other hand are less friendly to our knife because it's pretty hard. But that's also a reason why some people prefer bamboo board, because it doesn't get damaged as fast as a softer board, just because your knife is getting all the hit. It's actually very simple. A softer board will wear out faster, but it will keep your knife sharp. If you get a harder board, it will stay longer, but you might need to sharpen your knife more often. So board or knife, you kind of have to choose one. And in general, knives are way more expensive than boards. Next, let's talk about the plastic cutting boards. Most plastic cutting boards are made with PP or PE. They are both plastic and not heat proof, but PP does have a higher heat resistance than PE. The different heat resistant ability makes some cutting board is dishwasher safe and some not. So if you're getting a plastic board for conveniency, make sure you look at the ingredients and it's made with PP instead of PE. Because I think this is the biggest advantage that plastic cutting board have that wooden don't. Plastic cutting board are also very gentle to your knife. Plastic cutting board can be very versatile in look. You can basically wash them with anything, even bleach, to get rid of stain. And with multiple color board like this, you can separate your food and ingredients better when you're chopping them. The downside is that plastic is typically lighter and more slippery, and it can't not be resurfaced. Look at how thin they are. So when a board like this got damaged, we might need to throw it away every 6 months to a year. And some people also worry that the microplastic that got sliced off from the board will be a long-term health hazard. You can always rinse your ingredient after before you cook them. But obviously, not all ingredients are washable after. The last material I'm gonna talk about are the marble and glass material. These cutting boards are so beautiful and Instagram worthy, but to be honest, that's kind of it. Watching the video till now, you might already know exactly what I'm gonna say. These materials are just way too harsh on your knife. Materials such as marble, glass, stainless steel, or some stone board, really it should just be used for plating. And the sound it makes while it's chopping is also horrible. They're generally pretty heavy, so it will stay well on your surface, but your food will slice on top of it, which is more dangerous than the board sliding around. Long story short, don't buy them. Period. Well, now you know that your choice is only between wood, bamboo, or plastic. Let's look at how do we use, clean, and disinfect it or resurfacing it so you can know that if you're down to do that or not. First, let's talk about wood. Notice the most important thing is that wood love and hate water at the same time. Too much water will cause warping and molding, while too less will damage the surface and cause cracking. When you just bought your cutting board, you'll want to sit it under running water for 5 minutes to let the wood absorb water for the first time. Don't ever soak your cutting board because that will give too much water and pressure to it. Right after each usage, you should wash your cutting board right away, just like your wok, especially if you're cutting something with moisture or might stain the board. Because if you left it there, it's gonna absorb all the water and color and it will soak into the wood that standing wouldn't even help. And when you're washing your wooden board, you have to make sure you always wet the both sides of the board so you don't warp with the moisture content being different. After that, just stand it on your drying rack and let it dry thoroughly. Another way of quick cleaning is to use a solution of 1 part vinegar to 3 parts water. Spray the surface with a solution to disinfect it quickly and let it dry off. Now, disinfecting your wooden board is also very simple. Slice half of a lemon and rub it all over the dirty board. Then sprinkle a generous amount of kosher salt on it and start rubbing. Lemon and salt will absorb the smell and clean up the board pretty nicely. When you're done, leave it for a few hours till the salts are all dries up. Then scrub away the salt and wash it clean like how you normally would. Smells great! Depending on your cooking habit and how often you're chopping ingredients, resurfacing the board needs to be done around 2 to 4 times a year. When you feel like your board is getting rough, it seems like there's a lot of scratches and gouges that your knife can almost catch on them while cutting, it is time to resurface it, aka sanding. Take various grids of sandpaper to work on your board. I usually like to start with 60 and work my way to 220. The purpose of this is not to make it look brand new or perfect, but as smooth as you like them to be. Because some cut is just way deeper than others and we don't want to grind off too much every time. Last thing, wash them off at least twice to get rid of the sawdust so it doesn't get trapped when we coat it with oil later. Any wooden tools without a protective coating will require oiling, including your spoon, your salad bowl, even tables and chair. So you should always oil your wooden cutting board when you just bought them, besides the one that come pre-oiled. How to tell? Just drip some water on top of the board and see if it absorbs right away. If it absorbs right away, it needs oiling. Always use a food-grade mineral oil or beeswax, but not regular cooking oil, because when cooking oil comes in contact with air over time, it will get rinsed and start stinking. Just drop a few drops of oil and coat it with a rag or a kitchen napkin. Let it sit to absorb for 12 to 24 hours and wipe away the excess oil. After that, let it air out for 24 hours before you wash it and you can start using it again. You can oil it anytime, it doesn't have to be right after sanding, but it will be better if you just sand it and oil it and go through this process all together. Now, all the other material cutting boards are way more easier to maintain. Because these boards cannot be resurfaced, hence you have to throw it away when it comes to maintenance time for the wood cutting board. Daily cleaning of these boards are effortless though. Just wash them with detergent and warm water after usage, hanging up to dry to prevent bacteria from thriving on the board. And if it starts stinking or staining, just make this solution with baking soda, dishwashing detergent, and hydrogen peroxide to coat the whole dirty surface. Let it sit for at least 2 hours or overnight. This is a gentle way to bleach the board and disinfect it nicely, and it is less toxic than the store-bought bleach. Now, listen to all of this. Have you decided what cutting board you want yet? Here's a little conclusion for you if you're planning on buying a cutting board soon. Personal opinion, I think wooden board is the best investment when it comes to cutting board. If you want to start high and be set for the rest of your life and you don't care about maintaining it once in a while, it will be the best to get a very sturdy and thick cutting board, especially if you have a forever home. Bamboo cutting board can be a cheaper alternative, but if you can't afford it, I would recommend you to get any other material than bamboo in the wood category. The most convenient and cheap option has to be the plastic. It is very gentle to your knife, but those microplastic does concern me a little bit. Though the color difference and pricing allows you to own multiple boards at the same time, and it is the most simple to clean ever. And either get one of those boards that have a rubber on the bottom or use a kitchen rag always under your plastic board. And about the glass and marble boards, just don't consider it as a cutting board. Wow, that's gonna be a long one, I can feel it already. Today you have learned all you need to know about cutting board, but there's one last thing that you can learn before you go. That's the Chinese pronunciation for cutting board. 砧板 cutting boards. 砧板 Thank you for watching to the end. Let me know if this information is useful for you by giving this video a thumbs up. It's only gonna take you a second, but it means a lot to me. I make video on YouTube twice a week, so remember to hit that bell and you'll never miss out. Last but not least, don't forget to subscribe on my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!